There's definitely topics that I've always just figured I would avoid talking about on the channel, not intentionally, just because they're sort of outside of my realm. But sometimes I realize that I've put a lot of thought into something and I've really processed a particular thought, and I just want to share it for whoever might need it, or for whatever reason. I mean, you throw something out there in the ethers and you never know what comes from it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my thoughts as a dominant male, a dominant straight male's perspective on being transgender. And I'm gonna really make this more about male to female transitioning as opposed to female to male, just because I don't have any statistics on this, but I think that's far more common for whatever reason. And I guess I'd be curious about why that is actually, if it even is. But so I'm in the camp that there's two genders. There's male and there's female. And I don't think sexuality or masculinity and femininity are tied to either gender. So I think you have male and female, and then I think you have masculine and feminine. And they're on two different axes, and there's an overlap. So I do believe that you can have masculine male with the masculine, feminine sort of spectrum, if you will, and then the same for female. And I think there can be an overlap. It's an interesting space because I definitely think that, I guess if we're going to get really technical, and I'm not PC by any stretch of the imagination, but I think you could have a very masculine female who is more traditionally manly than a feminine male. And it's interesting for me because I tend to actually be attracted to more masculine women on the spectrum. Not that I have a strong opposition to femininity. I don't. I think the balance and the contrast of masculine and feminine is quite beautiful and something that I fully embrace, and I talk about it often. But I tend to, I don't know why. I don't know. I tend to like sort of an interesting balance. But so where does that kind of leave things for being transgender? Well, I think that, transgender, obviously, it's not talking about sexuality. It's not defining sexual preference. It's talking about how you feel internally. My channel is all about just complete preaching, being true to yourself. I believe at the core of everything, be true to yourself. If it doesn't harm anybody and it's consensual, be true to yourself. I don't give a fuck what it is. I got your fucking back. Like, the end. That's it. No, like, full stop, hard stop. Because you have one life and you have to live it for you. So if if we're going to if we're going to get really foo-foo and talk about past lives, for example, and say that we've all been inhabited male and female bodies, I don't have an answer for why somebody is transgender. I don't, and I struggle with the body dysmorphia title as well. Maybe somebody's just lived way more lives as a woman and they feel more comfortable as a woman, and now they've been born as a man and it doesn't feel comfortable to them. I don't fucking know. I don't give a fuck. Like, if somebody wants to go through the effort of transitioning, that's not an easy choice. In most cases, you're giving up the ability to reproduce. You're socially not accepted. Heaven for fucking bid you're a Republican, because then you're going to be completely fucking lynched. I mean, I don't think it's an easy path. And if somebody wants to choose it and they want to go down that road, I don't think they're choosing it for Instagram followers. Maybe. I mean, we're living in some weird times, and I think that's a definite danger of identity politics, is the potential for almost peer pressuring people instead of focusing on the individual. If you're an individual and you don't identify with your body, that's going to be so specific to you. There's going to be different things that are very specific to you, whether it's jawline, hairline, nose, hands, fingers, toes, whatever it is. Everybody's going to be so individual that I really struggle with the identity politics and the potential for peer pressuring within the trans community, or even parents that want to sort of virtue signal, which I've brought up in a couple videos, but the virtue signaling is just awful. Like to be like, oh my God, I accept this so much. I just, I think that's dangerous. I think that really we always need to just focus on the individual and whatever the individual's needs are and whatever the individual's preferences are. And I think in an ideal world, somebody's able to transition, they're able to live their life in a way they're comfortable with, and it becomes a non-issue. That they some people are more fortunate than others in this area. Some people are able to transition easier. Some people have more family support. Some people live in a community where it's more accepting. And that's another thing I've wondered about. It's gotten to be so much more prevalent. Obviously the number of people theoretically should have always been the same historically, that had these similar feelings. So that should just historically have always been the same. Now, obviously, everything's more acceptable, except being a Republican. And as a result, I guess I just wonder if there's a proliferation for the right reasons, or if if it's just now more accepted, so people are being raised in households that are maybe more open to it and there's more awareness. That would be my hope. My hope would be that times have improved and people feel more accepted and they feel more okay with being true to themselves. I think specifically when you look at a male to female transition, I think that's probably really difficult. And it's probably easier now because it's more acceptable for men to cry. People aren't, parents aren't raising their kids like boys don't cry, blah, 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 blah. But, man, it's just got to be hard. And I can't fathom what it's like, I see so many people talking about and sticking up for transgender rights, and I don't think anybody really has any comprehension and difficulty. I mean, when I am able to really empathize and put myself in that situation, I couldn't imagine that struggle really. And I couldn't imagine lumping somebody in a group, and I wouldn't like it. That's for sure. I wouldn't like people that couldn't relate speaking up for me. That wouldn't feel right to me at all. Or trying to advocate for me as if I'm incapable of advocating for myself. I wouldn't like any of that, but it does have to be really difficult to, I think that's really about all I got on it. I didn't really need to make this video. I guess I was just showering and I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about the courage it takes in general to be true to yourself and live in a way that feels authentic and makes you happy. And I was thinking about just the individual experience, and I was trying to imagine what it was like to not be able to relate to my body. And to go back to the body dysphoria, I think that's difficult because I think wouldn't anorexia fall into that category? And I don't think it's the same. I don't think it parallels. I don't think if you're truly uncomfortable in your body and you give that some time and you try to work through that, I just don't think there's things that you can mentally overcome. Anorexia, I do think, is something that you really have to retrain yourself, but I don't know. It's really so hard to try to put myself in those shoes and to even speculate. So I guess my thoughts are, if you know somebody that is transgender or has, some some feelings with not identifying with the gender they were born as, don't read about it, don't look into it, talk to them about it. Don't think that because you've read something about transgender people you know anything about it. Just get an idea of what their experience is, get an understanding of who they are as a person, how they work, how they feel, and what's specific to them, because I really do think that identity politics are just fucking toxic. Like, I think they're absolutely toxic. So that's it. Those are my thoughts. Peace out.